This video is on survey research. Let's begin by talking about some of the benefits of survey research. Survey research, as you might recall from your readings, involves the use of questionnaires and/or interviews. Using this method can be rather inexpensive because, for instance, if I hire people to make phone calls to people throughout the country, say on their views on politics, the presidential election, what have you, it does not cost a lot of money to hire people to make phone calls. And therefore, when we look at survey research, we say a benefit is that it's a relatively inexpensive method of gathering information and conducting research. A second benefit of survey research is that you can study large groups of people. For instance, think about the presidential election. We have surveys, Gallup survey, CNN, USA Today, and many other ones, who ask people their opinion on politics, and they say, okay, based on our survey, this is how we think the American population is going to vote in the presidential election. We're studying a very large group of people because well over 100 million people will vote in the next presidential election. Probably 120, 130 million people are going to vote in that election. And if you look at it, we study a big group, and you know how many people they interview in a Gallup poll or CNN Today, a USA Today poll? 1,500 people, 2,000 people, maybe 2,500 people. So survey research is good at studying large groups of people. Finally, survey research can tell us how people are changing their opinions. We can look for changes over time. For instance, we conduct a survey at one point in time and see, well, these are the opinions of the population now. We conduct it later on and say, hey, look, the opinions have changed, So for instance, if we were looking at a topic like legalizing marijuana, we have seen over the past number of years that there has been a trend in which a growing number of people feel that marijuana should be legalized, so that now, in 2020, well, I think it's well over 60% of the adult population feel that marijuana should be legalized. So again, survey research allows us to see changes over time. Now let's talk about some of the issues in survey research. One issue is something called a leading question. A leading question is a question that's stated in a way where it kind of can lead people to give us a certain answer. In other words, it creates like a bias. Let's say I'm doing a survey in a conservative community, and people in this community voted against President Obama in the election, okay? And I ask people, are you for or against Obamacare? That's the leading question, and let me tell you why. Because when I use the term Obamacare, this person who voted against President Obama says, I voted against President Obama, Obamacare, I'm opposed to it. And so they give me that answer, whether or not they really understand what Obamacare is all about. And that's a leading question because my answer may not be that valid. A better way to ask that question, and so it's not leading, is to ask the question about, do you believe in the Affordable Care Act? That gets better because I'm leaving out Obama's name. Even better way would be to ask a question that talks about some of the aspects of Obamacare. So I might ask this. I may say, do you believe that we should have, a government program that tells insurance companies that they must provide coverage for pre-existing conditions? In other words, should insurance companies be required to cover people with pre-existing conditions? That is an element of Obamacare. Insurance companies have to do this. And when you ask people that question, I believe, if I'm right, that the opinion polls have shown that even conservatives go, yes. See? So therefore, we find that in this case, conservatives do support at least some aspects of Obamacare. Another issue with survey research is what we call validity. Validity is, am I getting the correct answer? How do I know that people are telling me the truth? If we call you on the phone and we ask you a question, how do we know you're answering the truth? How can we do it? So here we go. How can we improve validity or accuracy on a survey? One way is to include what we call a lie scale in the survey. A lie scale would be a series of questions that have nothing to do with the actual topic. So I'm calling you on the phone and I'm asking you questions on a topic. And then I say, for instance, have you ever taken something that didn't belong to you? You stole something from your brother or sister, or stole something from another kid at school, or maybe you went to Walmart, put a pack of gum in your pocket when you were a little kid. Have you ever taken something that didn't belong to you? And the person goes, no. If a person says no to that question, you know what we do very often? We throw out their answers. Why? Because we feel that most everybody has taken something that didn't belong to them. And if somebody says, I didn't take anything that didn't belong to me, we start to think maybe they're not going to give us accurate answers on the other questions. They might lie on those too. For instance, here's another lie scale question. Have you ever done or said anything that you later on regretted? Have you ever said or done anything in your life that later on you regretted? So I asked this question and the person goes, no, I've never said or done anything I regretted. We throw out their answers. We just toss out their survey, because if they lie on that question, they may lie on other questions, because everybody's said or done something that they later on regretted, right? We all have. Another way to tell if people are giving accurate answers is to ask the same question in a sort of different way. Let me give you a quick example. I ask you, what's your income? How do I know if you're telling the truth? So let's say you're making $25,000 a year, but you just say, what the heck, I'm making $500,000. I don't know if you're telling the truth. So what I do is I ask you that question about your income, then I ask you some other questions, and a little later on I say, by the way, what kind of car do you drive? And you go, an old Kia. Oh, 1997 Kia. Okay, cool. I might say, how often do you go out to eat out? And you go, well, not very often, and when I do, I go to McDonald's. Where'd you go on your last trip? I drove from El Paso to Las Cruces. Okay. A little later on, I may say, what kind of apartment do you live in? A studio apartment. And I space these questions out so that they're not like one right after the other. Now, what's important about this? Here's the important point. I lied about the income, and I have to be consistent, and I have to lie about where I went on vacation, what I live in, where I eat, kind of car I drive. And if I'm not consistent in giving answers, then we think the person is not telling the truth. Because if I'm making $500,000 a year, I'm probably driving a newer car, I probably have a nice apartment, I probably eat out a lot, and I probably take trips. Do you follow me? So what we're looking for here is consistency in answers. And that's another way of determining whether or not people are telling us the truth. So we ask them a question, then later on, we ask them questions that are related to that to see if they give us answers that are consistent. So here we have a little bit about survey research.